My best friend confessed something that changed everything. Broken heart. There are moments in life that divide everything into before and after. Moments so significant that they fundamentally alter the trajectory of who you are and who you'll become. For me, that moment happened on a cold February night, sitting on the hood of my best friend's car, overlooking the city lights from our favorite spot on Mulholland Drive. The confession that came that night didn't just change everything. It shattered everything and then slowly, painfully, beautifully built it all back into something I never could have imagined. I met Ethan on the first day of high school, both of us awkward freshmen trying to navigate the chaos of a new campus. He'd been assigned the locker next to mine, and our first interaction was him accidentally hitting me in the face with his locker door. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," he'd stammered, his face flushing red as I clutched my nose. "It's fine," I'd laughed, even though my eyes were watering. Great first impression though. He'd bought me a soda from the vending machine as an apology, and somehow that turned into lunch together, which turned into studying together, which turned into an inseparable friendship that defined the next decade of my life. Ethan became my person, my 2 a.m. phone call when I couldn't sleep, my partner in crime for every stupid adventure, the one who knew all my secrets, my fears, my dreams. We went to prom together when both our dates bylaid, him in a ridiculous tuxedo with a bow tie he'd tied wrong, me in a suit I'd borrowed from my older brother. We applied to the same colleges, celebrated when we both got into UCLA, and spent 4 years as roommates, building a life that felt permanent in the way only young friendships can feel. People always asked if we were together. "Just friends," we'd say, laughing it off. And it was true. I'd never thought of Ethan as anything more than my best friend. I dated other guys, had relationships that lasted months or sometimes years. Ethan had his own relationships too, though they never seemed to last as long as mine. "I'm picky," he'd say with a shrug whenever I asked why he'd broken up with someone who seemed perfectly nice. "You're impossible," I'd tease back. The year everything shifted. After college, we got an apartment together in Silver Lake. I started working at an architecture firm, slowly learning the ropes and dreaming of designing buildings that would outlive me. Ethan went into graphic design, freelancing from our living room, usually surrounded by energy drink cans and sketches. Our lives fell into a comfortable rhythm. Morning coffee together before I left for work. Evenings spent cooking dinner, watching terrible reality TV, arguing about everything from politics to whether pineapple belonged on pizza. Weekends hiking, going to concerts, exploring the city we'd grown up in but were finally old enough to truly appreciate. I started dating someone seriously, a guy named Cameron who worked in finance. He was handsome, successful, ambitious, everything that looked good on paper. My parents loved him, my coworkers were impressed when I brought him to office parties. But Ethan didn't like him. "There's just something about him I don't trust," Ethan said one night after Cameron had left our apartment following dinner. "You don't trust anyone I date," I pointed out, slightly annoyed. "That's not true, I like Derek." "You hated Derek, you called him vanilla-flavored white bread for 3 months." Ethan smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Okay, fine, but Cameron is different. I don't know, he doesn't see you the way," he stopped abruptly. "The way what?" "Never mind, just be careful, okay?" I should have asked what he meant, should have pushed him to finish that sentence, but I didn't want to fight, so I let it go. Over the next few months, I noticed Ethan pulling away. He was quieter, spending more time in his room, taking on more projects that kept him busy. When Cameron was over, Ethan would disappear. Our movie nights became less frequent. The easy comfort we'd always shared felt strained, like something unspoken was growing between us, taking up space. "Are you okay?" I asked him one morning, finding him staring blankly at his laptop. "Yeah, just tired," he said, but his smile was forced. "Ethan, seriously, what's going on? You've been weird for months." "I'm fine, Miles, really, just stressed about work." I wanted to believe him. It was easier than acknowledging that something fundamental was shifting in the most important relationship of my life. Cameron proposed to me on New Year's Eve in front of all our friends at a rooftop party in downtown LA. It was perfectly orchestrated, champagne, fireworks, everyone cheering as I said yes, caught up in the moment, in what was supposed to happen next. Ethan left the party early, I didn't even see him go. When I got home that night, still buzzing with champagne and adrenaline, his bedroom door was closed, his light off. I stood outside it for a long moment, my hand raised to knock, but something stopped me. The next morning, he was gone. A note on the kitchen counter said he was visiting his parents for a few days. He was gone for a week. When he came back, he was different, quieter, more distant. He congratulated me on the engagement with a hug that felt hollow. He asked polite questions about wedding planning but never seemed to really hear my answers. "What's wrong?" I finally asked one night, cornering him in the kitchen. "And don't say nothing, you've been avoiding me since New Year's." "I'm not avoiding you." "You are, Ethan, you're my best friend. If I'm doing something wrong, if you're upset about something, just tell me." He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes that made my chest tighten: pain, longing, resignation. "Can we go for a drive?" he asked quietly. That's how we ended up on Mulholland Drive, sitting on the hood of his old Honda Civic. The city sprawled below us like a galaxy of lights. We'd come to this spot hundreds of times over the years, after breakups, after bad days, after celebrations, after nothing at all. It was our place, where we went when we needed to feel small in the face of something bigger. The February air was cold and I pulled my jacket tighter around me. Ethan was quiet beside me, hands shoved in his pockets, staring at the horizon. "Remember the first time we came up here," he finally said. "Junior year, you just gotten your license. We stayed until sunrise talking about what we wanted our lives to look like. You wanted to design buildings that made people feel something," he said softly, "and I wanted," he trailed off, laughing without humor, "I wanted to be brave enough to tell the truth." "What truth?" He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "I'm in love with you." The words hung in the cold air between us, and for a moment I was sure I'd misheard him. "What?" "I'm in love with you, Miles. I have been for years. Maybe since the beginning, I don't know, but definitely since college. And I know this ruins everything. I know I should have kept my mouth shut, but I can't watch you marry him. I can't stand at your wedding and pretend I'm happy for you when every day I've been dying inside, wishing," his voice cracked, "wishing you could see me the way you see everyone else you've ever dated." My mind was reeling, trying to process what he was saying. Ethan, my best friend, in love with me for years. "Why didn't you tell me?" The words came out barely above a whisper. "Because I was terrified of losing you. Our friendship is the most important thing in my life. I thought if I never said anything I could keep you in some way. But then Cameron proposed and I realized I'm losing you anyway." He turned to face me and there were tears on his cheeks. "I'm not asking you to feel the same way, I know you don't, I needed you to know the truth before you married him. You deserve to know that someone sees you, really sees you in a way he never will." "What do you mean?" "Cameron doesn't know you," Ethan said, his voice gaining strength. "He doesn't know that you hum when you're concentrating, or that you always order your coffee too hot and burn your tongue, or that you cry at animal shelter commercials but try to hide it. He doesn't know that you sketch buildings on napkins when you're nervous, or that you call your mom every Sunday even when you have nothing to say because you know it makes her happy. He doesn't know that you're scared of thunderstorms or that you want 3 kids and a dog named after a Star Wars character. He doesn't know you the way I know you." With every word, I felt something crack inside me, because he was right. Cameron didn't know those things. We'd been together for over a year, engaged for 6 weeks, and he couldn't list my favorite movies or tell you my middle name or explain why I became an architect. But Ethan knew everything. "I can't do this," I said, sliding off the hood of the car. "I need to go home." "Miles." "No, I need to think." The drive back to our apartment was silent. When we got there, I went straight to my room and closed the door. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the last 10 years through this new lens. Suddenly, so many things made sense. The way Ethan had always been slightly hostile toward the guys I dated, the way he'd pull away whenever I got serious with someone, the sadness in his eyes at the engagement party. How had I not seen it? But more troubling was the question I couldn't stop asking myself: if I had known, would it have changed anything? I thought about Cameron, safe, predictable Cameron who fit perfectly into the life I'd planned for myself. Then I thought about Ethan, who had been there through everything, who knew me better than I knew myself, whose absence from my life would leave a hole nothing could fill. 3 days passed. I stayed with my parents, telling them I needed space to deal with work stress. I ignored Cameron's calls. I ignored Ethan's texts. On the 4th day, my mom found me sitting in their backyard, staring at nothing. "Want to talk about it?" she asked, sitting beside me. "Did you always know Dad was the one?" I asked. She smiled, not immediately. I was actually engaged to someone else when I met your father. I looked at her in surprise, I'd never known that. His name was Richard, lovely man, very respectable, my parents adored him. But then I met your dad at a wedding and he made me laugh so hard I spilled wine all over my dress. We talked all night, and I realized that I'd been choosing safety over happiness. Richard was who I thought I should marry. Your father was who I wanted to wake up next to for the rest of my life. What did you do? The hardest thing I've ever done. I gave Richard his ring back, broke his heart, and probably mine too for a while. But then I called your father and he picked me up at 2 a.m. and we drove to the beach and watched the sunrise, and I knew I'd made the right choice. She squeezed my hand. Life is too short to marry someone who's good on paper, sweetheart. Marry the person who makes your soul feel at home. I went back to the apartment that night. Cameron was there, sitting on the couch with Ethan, both of them looking uncomfortable. We need to talk, Cameron said when he saw me. I know, I'm sorry I disappeared. I'm breaking up with you, he said, cutting me off. He didn't sound angry, just tired. I've been thinking about what Ethan said at the party. My stomach dropped. What did Ethan say? Cameron looked at Ethan, who was staring at the floor. He told me that night that I didn't deserve you, that I didn't see you or appreciate you the way you deserved, and at first I was angry, but then you disappeared for 4 days and I realized he was right. I don't know your middle name, Miles. We're engaged and I don't know your middle name. It's Alexander, Ethan said quietly. I know, Cameron continued, because I asked him, and he knew that and your coffee order and why you became an architect and everything about you that I should know but don't. He stood, pulling the engagement ring from his pocket. You're a good person, Miles, but I think you're in love with him and just don't know it yet, and I deserve someone who's fully here, not someone who's giving me only part of themselves. He set the ring on the coffee table, gave Ethan a nod and left. The door closed behind him and silence filled the apartment. Miles, Ethan started. Alexander, I said. What? My middle name, it's after my grandfather. I always hated it as a kid because the kids at school called me Alexander the Grape when I wore purple. I moved to sit next to him on the couch. My coffee order is a medium oat milk latte with 2 pumps of vanilla and cinnamon on top. I became an architect because when I was 7, I built a treehouse with my dad, and he told me that buildings are just dreams made solid, and I wanted to spend my life turning dreams into reality. Ethan was crying again, silently, tears streaming down his face. You know all of this about me, I continued. You've known it for years, you know me better than anyone ever has or probably ever will, and I've been so stupid, Ethan, so incredibly stupid. Because I've been looking for someone to build a life with and you've been right here the entire time and I just didn't see it. What are you saying? He whispered. I'm saying I don't know if I'm in love with you yet, but I think I could be. I think maybe I have been for a while and was too scared to admit it because loving you, really loving you, would change everything. And change is terrifying. And now I think maybe change is exactly what I need. I took his hand, lacing our fingers together. It felt different than every other time we'd held hands, charged with possibility, with promise. I can't promise this will work. I can't promise I won't be scared or that I won't mess this up. But I can promise that I want to try, because losing you, losing us would be the biggest mistake of my life. He kissed me then, or maybe I kissed him. It didn't matter. What mattered was that it felt like coming home, like every moment of the last 10 years had been leading to this, like the universe had been patiently waiting for us to finally figure out what everyone else had probably seen all along. 2 years later. We didn't rush into anything. We took it slow, relearning each other in this new context. Dating your best friend is strange. You skip all the awkward getting to know you phase and jump straight into the deep intimacy, but you also have to navigate the shift from friendship to romance without losing what made your connection special in the first place. It wasn't always easy. We fought sometimes, learning how to be partners and not just friends. There were moments of doubt, moments where I worried we'd made a mistake, moments where the fear of losing him overwhelmed everything else. But there were also mornings waking up next to him, evenings cooking dinner together, nights falling asleep to the sound of his breathing. There was the trip to Italy where he proposed to me in a tiny restaurant in Rome, both of us crying and laughing at the same time. There was the moment at our wedding, small, intimate, just family and close friends, when I saw him waiting for me at the end of the aisle and knew with absolute certainty that this was right. My middle name is Alexander, after my grandfather, who taught me that the best things in life are worth waiting for. And it turns out he was right. My best friend confessed something that changed everything, and I'm grateful every day that he was brave enough to tell the truth. Because the truth is this, sometimes the love you're looking for has been there all along, waiting patiently in the person who knows your coffee order, your middle name, and every dream you've ever whispered in the dark. Sometimes the greatest love story isn't about finding someone new, it's about finally seeing the person who's been beside you all along.